welcome to the Motyv podcast. This is awesome. So today we're going to talk about something that Steve brought up.
Are you serious?
Yeah, what was that, Steve, that you brought
I
up
have
the other
one.
day that one time?
Yeah,
Well,
what
you have
is
a
it?
topic?
Maybe. I don't know if you guys want to talk about it.
I do.
Do you have a topic?
Possibly.
I trust you.
Do you watch? Did you guys watch any of the CrossFit games?
No.
Nothing.
No.
So
I
the
saw the guy-
final. Do you saw who? The guy doing.
I tend to not.
I know he
want
broke
to
the record.
Feel so weak most of the time.
Ooh,
What'd you say?
might have been
I
talking
tend to
about
not
that
want
one.
to feel that weak when I watch things like that.
There was a guy in the final workout. He was
Snap
leader.
the hamstring.
No, he broke his foot like the workout before, and the final workout had some double unders, right? Double under with the jump rope, and he did them like on one foot, and he still made second place. And at the end, he was getting interviewed. He was like in tears. This huge guy, Roman Krenikov, I think is his name. And they asked him like, "Hey, why'd you push through? Like, you didn't have to finish." And he's like, "Yeah, I pushed through. I wanted to show my son like what it's like to not give up and like to continue to push through." And it's in Russian, so someone's translating with it.
Hmm.
But it was pretty cool. It was really powerful. Like a lot of the people were just like in shock. Like the first person that finished was like 7 minutes 50 seconds, and he was like twice that.
Hmm.
So like 14 minutes, or for 7 minutes, he was one of the only people on the floor like doing the workout by himself,
Jeez.
just still grinding through it. 1-footed jump rope, just
And it was the very last thing.
yeah, the final
Wow.
one. I just thought it was cool that he dedicated it more or less, and was like, "Yeah, I wanted to show my son what it's like to not give up," because like he could have, and he probably still would have podiumed. But
My thought on that at first is like the question, why did you finish? You didn't have to.
mhm.
There's a mentality that some of us have at different parts in our life. Like, no, I did have to. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, it's like a whole different mentality. It's just something about yourself. You're like, nope, non-negotiable. I'm gonna do it. And it's, I guess it can border between like hurtful or unhealthy and
Sure,
also
sure.
healthy. It's like a crazy balance. That was kind of where I went with that
Yeah.
question.
The thought I had was, is this man closer to his son because he's chosen to do really hard things in his life? And is there something there to be seen? Is there something to look into there? That's what I thought of. Of times when maybe I'm more idle, more just kind of, I would say, a little less purpose focused, a little more comfortable, focus on ways of not really stretching, then why do I need to tap into this powerful motive, such as a family member, to accomplish anything? And so I'm just good, and I'll just do my thing, but really utilizing that power isn't even needed. And so is there a correlation between the harder I push myself in a healthy way? We're going to talk a lot about that. But the harder I push myself, then the more I actually have to dig deep into what matters to keep doing that. And isn't it so coincidental that family becomes that thing, or a loved one? Like I love talking about your greatest motive is a who, not a what.
Yeah.
Right? Like you look at any Navy SEAL, those teams, it's why'd you jump on the grenade? Why'd you do that? Why'd you give up your, it took your leg off? He's like, what do you mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's my brother. Like, what do you mean? Why did I jump on the grenade?
Yeah, it was a non-negotiable.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
like, that's what you do.
Mhm.
And so that's what I thought. I'm looking at my own life thinking, okay, yeah, when I'm pushing harder, as long as I stay healthy, and healthy, I guess, would be compassionate and kind and good with myself, accountable and healthy and honest, then as long as I stay there, then I have to tap into something deeper,
Right.
to do that.
Right.
So if you can hear the fighter jets, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's not a coincidence.
Yeah.
But
We thought we'd have a flyover during
Yeah.
our podcast
Yeah.
episode.
Sound
like-
freedom.
Yeah, I like what you said though. That the more we tap, we become more capable or more driven or purposeful. How did you say it? The more we tap into, or then we're forced to tap into our purpose.
So the
Like,
harder,
ooh.
the more difficult things we choose to do,
There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and we have to tap in.
But it's also the more you tap into your purpose is that the more drive you're going to have, the more purpose you're going to have. I
Yeah.
love that.
And yeah, and again, the more connection you have with
Mhm.
people, the more love you have, then the more
Yeah.
tap you have. You know what I mean? The more you have to tap into,
Mm-hmm.
right? But there's a lot of people that have survived horrendous things. You know, I haven't read the book, but I need to. But there's a guy that wrote a book about him being stranded on the ocean, uh, fleeing from, I think it was from Cuba or something like that. But
Mm.
he got stranded and he was out there for, I think it was like 400 days or something plus. And he had an unborn, or he had a daughter he hadn't met yet, or he had a daughter that he had only met a few times, and she was then a teenager, and he like swore, I will survive this, and I will get back and be a good father for her. So just one person.
Yeah, that's cool. It's crazy. I think that sometimes our motivation, it changes over the years or why we do certain stuff. I just thinking quickly because I was just showing you guys a video, that cliff jump that I did, and I'm like, why did I do that? I don't
60 footer
ish,
ish.
maybe less. I don't know. I'm gonna
It
say
looked
it's
high.
60.
It's around 40.
It I know the one my kids were doing were 40, 45.
Mm-hmm.
But my whole language about it, I noticed, even I was out there floating on a paddleboard where they would land, right? Just in case.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like kind of close and I'm like, get out of your comfort zone. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
They're like,
20,
I am
20,
ready.
20. Oh, and they were for sure. I was like, and I said that. I'm like, I know you are already, but like, do it again. But like 25 years ago, I was like, it's cool. Like, do it because it's
Just spend
cool.
it. Just go.
My wife was out chanting, do it in, you're cool. Do it in. Which just to be funny, but like I'm over here being like therapy brain, but like 25 years ago it would have been like, this gets us glory.
Oh,
This is
Sure.
so cool. And even the one I did, I was like, no, this is fun. Like that's what I'm all about. I'm like, this is fun. I'm not doing this to like show off, but I would have
Yeah.
25 years ago
Sure.
for sure.
yeah.
And so some of that stuff's like it gets you can get really brainy about it, but I was in it. It's just interesting as I sit here and think about it. I'm like, this was way different experience than it would have been a long time ago, where it was like, oh, this is scary, but I want to grow too, but also like showing kids hard things, whatever,
Yeah, it
but
can be
for the
fun.
right reasons,
Mm-hmm.
like growth.
I had a similar experience this past summer. I was up. We were cliff jumping with some guys in my church, and one guy gets up to this 45, maybe 50-foot cliff, and he turns backwards and looks at us, and he's like, "All right, guys, see ya." Does a backflip, and I'm like, "Holy cow!" And we were talking after.
A 1.25.
That's what was my biggest fear for him. But he got down. He's like, "Man, Steve, the weirdest thing that I wasn't even like, I didn't feel that weird pit of fear. Like he's like, I wasn't even scared." He's like, "I don't know what that's all about, but I just like the biggest thing that stood out to me was that I had fun.
Yep.
It was just fun. It wasn't like, oh no, my life's in danger, but it was just fun." And so we talked to a lot of the guys about it because we were up there with our young men's group. They're like, how much are we doing things because like we just want to have fun versus like, oh, I want to look cool in front of my friends, or I really want to be able
Yep.
to get this reward that's not necessarily beneficial or at least helpful, but it's just like to go out there and do something that's exciting.
Yeah. And then you watch, like there was some other people up there and you can kind of it's like an angled cliff, so you can just choose anything between 10 and 60 feet.
Mm-hmm.
60 hopefully. But this guy I was watching do like a 20-footer and he was scared
Yeah.
to death. And he's like probably 30, 35. And my thought was like, this guy's freaking awesome.
Yeah.
Only because I could see how scared he was. Right? Like 20 feet's like, okay, that's fun.
Mm-hmm.
It still is fun. But like I could watch his fear and I was like, dude, this guy's tripping so hard and he's still gonna do it.
Did he do it?
Yeah. Oh yeah, but he was like visibly like freaking out. And the rest of us are like, that's not scary, but for him it is.
Mm-hmm.
This is awesome. I respect that way more than people that like
Same.
just have no fear, like
Yeah.
flying off of it.
Mm-hmm.
So why? So if a man is listening to this podcast right now, and he just heard that, right? How many men? How common is it, if you will, for men to? I will not even go to that 20-footer because I know I will look weak. Like my fear will show,
I'll
and
pretend to be uninterested.
then the assumption is other men will not have compassion with that fear. Instead, they will see it as a competition and an ability for them to be better than me and look better than me, or can just look less, like their respect of me goes down. Does that make sense? Like,
Mm-hmm.
that to me is what men are going. That's what men go through.
So you're asking how many would hesitate just because of those? A lot.
And
I think
we
it's
got
a
to
lot.
change that.
Mm-hmm.
We have to change that
Yeah, you got to.
induce, because when you show fear, if you show fear and somebody else uses that against you, I mean, yeah, what does it say? What does it say about the relationship? You're done. Like, maybe it doesn't have to be so quickly you're done,
Sure.
but at the same time, like, that shows the character in that person a lot more than it does in you. And because compassion isn't some female feminine trait. Like, it isn't. It's in every
No.
single person. You feel it every time you see a homeless person.
Oh yeah.
Whether it's to what degree you feel it is up to you in a lot of ways. But you can't just stare at a homeless person and not feel something most of the time, especially in the wintertime. Like, driving to work and I see those guys under the overpass.
Mm-hmm.
Holy cow.
It's brutal.
But because you see their story, you see their suffering, you see what's going on. And we just don't usually show
Well,
that.
even if you don't know exactly how they got there,
Yeah.
it's just like, oh, something happened. This sucks. It's
Yeah.
brutal, and they're just suffering. So
What are your thoughts, Jordan?
I mean, the idea of like a man looking weak, right? And I get that.
Yeah.
For me, where I go to and when I think about is it's men don't look at other men as weak. Like if someone's going to that cliff and they're scared of the 20-footer, like we'll encourage them, we'll cheer them on, like you got this, right? Like my 20 is different than your 20,
totally.
and so like just go for it, right? Like
Mhm.
we're there for you. I think where men feel weak is in their comparison to where the world expects them to be. And I think men can relate to that and have compassion for that because we go, I know what it feels like to have the pressure. I know what it feels like to have to do the race every day or to live to live up to a certain expectation. And when you can strip that away and just be like men with each other, like I think we're really compassionate actually because we
Mhm.
can see it and we can feel it. And that the expectation I think comes from the world and outside of that where we feel the weakest. And so when that gets stripped away, we can just kind of be guys and support each other and encourage each other to keep going.
And I think if you're a man, a strong man, you realize none of this crap really matters. Some of that stuff, right, where you might judge others or feel like you might get judged. And when you said men don't think each other is like see each other as weak, is that kind of what you said?
Hmm.
I'm like, well, boys do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I think as teenagers, you'd be like weak, like you totally would,
Right.
because you're weak yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like that projection where you're like, I would feel so weak if I couldn't do this 20-footer. And then you see someone up there and you're like, weak, didn't do it. That's like an immature way of seeing it. But I think you're right. I think men, like a true man, doesn't see that. It's just like, whatever, do it, don't do it. You do stuff I don't do. Everybody does, like everybody's got strengths, you know.
If only there was a program that men could join and could see each other and have compassion, and man, that'd be
Really
amazing.
good idea.
That's a good idea. Someone should build that.
Mm.
Oh wait, we have,
Mm.
because that's what I thought when you said men look at the world. It's like the light and dark comparison, right? Like, what is darkness? Well, it's just the absence of light. So when he's only focused on comparison to the world, to me, it's in the absence of actually understanding what other men truly go through, because so many men don't know what
Hmm.
is normal. I had a conversation with a good friend of mine the other day. We went on a drive. He was in a hard place, and just went on a drive for quite a while. And he started finally opening up to me, and it's been a while. And I was able to just be like, "Hey, dude, just guess what?" He's like, "What?" I'm like, "That's really normal." I'm like, "That's super normal, actually. Like, all guys feel that way." And he like, "Really?" I'm like, "Yeah, truly." And then he said another thing. I said, "That's normal.
Mm-hmm.
That's super normal." And I think he probably said 4 or 5 different things. And I kept saying to him, and I finally looked at him and said, "This is your problem, is that you've run around with so much shame that you're so broken, you're so different, you're so beyond where other guys are."
Hmm.
And it's all an illusion because you haven't been able to hear anybody else's story, and you haven't been able to have anybody hear yours to be able to tell you, "Oh yeah, me too, man." Like, no one could even say "me too" to you
Why?
because they don't know.
Yeah.
And it's fear, right? That his he just doesn't. It isn't a. There's nothing inside of him from his childhood and teenage life and adult life that says, "Oh, you should just tell somebody,"
Right.
right? And that's just the case, sadly, for many.
But we also get pretty good at building up a shell and just not showing that stuff to people because we've been almost programmed. The messages we've always had is like, be tough, push through, whatever. Don't talk about pain or you're weak. I think about the guys on Motive Men, like the group therapy sessions, when they apologize, like for being emotional.
Mhm.
And you're like, bro,
Sorry, guys.
it's okay. Like, that's good. In fact, no respect is lost, respect is gained.
Mhm.
When a dude just breaks down like that, it's like, oh, yeah, I feel you now. I can connect with you because it's relatable. And we all can feel that. And there, like you said, Jordan, like no judgment, there's no weakness in there. I don't see that as weak. I see it as strength. I see it as the opposite of what we're taught to see it as. But that's through doing work and just kind of sitting on this side of the therapy aisle is like you see this in your office and you're like, yes,
Yeah.
not in a fun way. Like, but what, sometimes clients are confused. You're like, dude, I love that. And they're like, oh, you're like, I love it because I know you're working. That's why I love it. And it's respectful.
And the irony in it is the more you do that, the more you actually can be your true tough side. Because I think sometimes if again I'm always trying to put myself in a man's shoes listening to this episode or listening to whatever we're talking about. And I could see a man right now just being like, dude, that's not realistic. Like guys can't open up. Like come on, Blake. Like people they don't do that. And I would say to them, I hear you. We're not telling you that that's how it always is.
Yeah.
We're not telling you
24/7
that
walk around
yeah,
crying, dude.
every time someone asks you how you're doing, that you're just like, well, let me tell you the truth. No, no. But I think sometimes the message the pendulum can swing and you can almost feel like that's what masculinity is supposed to come to now. It's like, no, no. There's a
Right. Too much
reason
swing.
that
Yep.
men are to be tough. There's a reason for men to have fortitude and there's a reason men go to war and they're able to compartmentalize and say this is a time to protect and to
Turn
fight
it off
and
for
to
a
turn it off.
second.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
we're built that
In a
way.
crisis, in an urgent, any kind of emergencies type of situation, it's like,
Yep.
no, let's do this right now. And you have to turn those off.
And it's so I like to look at it like a tool. If that's a hammer, I have an ability to be a hammer, which means I can shut it down, I can get to work, I can get some stuff done, I can accomplish and build things that I need to do. Well, okay, guess what? There's a lot more tools out there in the world. Like I don't have to be a hammer every day. Like there's times to be something different. But isn't it awesome that I have the hammer? But if that's all I know is being a hammer, it can get pretty dull pretty quick.
Yeah.
And as we always say, then you can oftentimes everything can become a nail if you're not careful over time, you know.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, the other day I was at a park and there was a kid, probably 3 years old or something, right? Was running at the park and tripped and skinned his knee on the concrete, right? And mom's sitting on a bench over there and she goes, "Ah, get up, you're tough, you're a boy." Right? And I
Mm.
think so early on there's messages like that of just suck it up, right? Suck it up, keep moving on, keep doing what you need to do. So I think part of getting into that compassion and being able to access that is just overriding the messages that it's not okay to have emotions or it's not okay to do anything with them, right? Unless it's anger. Anger somehow is appropriate, but
Yeah.
Because
sadness
it's
isn't.
so freaking easy and we can all do it so easy.
Yeah.
That's such a good phrase though. Override the messages.
Mm-hmm.
That's such a good
Mm-hmm.
phrase. Because to me, do you even know the messages to begin with? And that's what we're about. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's what we're here to try to help you with is can you even understand that there are messages that are inside of you
Yeah.
that are blindly steering your life and you don't even know they're there because to find them it requires some pain. To find them requires to feel some of the pain of the situations and experiences you had that created those messages.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard. It's no one really wants to do it. However, if you want to lead a meaningful life, if you want to have a life of purpose, you have to go through it. You have to
Yeah.
figure it out,
Yeah.
you know.
There's no way to grow without that pain.
Yep. Well, and you're going to be in pain anyway, right? It's like you're going to the
Right.
pain of loneliness, the pain of isolation, the pain of lack of progress, the pain of like making bad mistakes that hurt relationships because you're hiding. And again, there's no shame in it. You don't even know not to hide. That's what we're trying to help you to do. It's like let's let's learn that you are hiding and learn and know that there at least here there's a place if you need to and if you want to come out and actually just show yourself
Yeah.
and just be heard, be
It,
seen.
it's just that whole phrase. It's that cliche, like choose your pain,
Yeah.
right? You're gonna be in it anyway. You might as well choose that thing to make you grow. Choose that pain.
That's what I'm taking it back to the point that got us started on this with the CrossFitter guy. He chose his pain.
That's
he was
true.
going to feel pain no matter what, whether he
Mm.
quit, right, or whether he continued. And he continued, obviously, and he found that diving into his deeper purpose and finding and doing it for his son, I think was what I don't know. Obviously, it benefited him because the guy was the interview that I saw, he was in tears.
Was he?
And I don't think it was physical pain. Sure, the physical pain was probably hurting, but I think him acknowledging like, wow, I just was able to do this and demonstrate this for my son. And probably I could only imagine, like, because I get like this sometimes. I can like connect. We can connect mentally, just like thinking about like, hey, I love my son,
Mm-hmm.
or I love this person. I love my purpose, my motive, and it is that same feeling of connection right in that moment. And I think it's
And
pretty special.
yeah, even in that, right? Like you can still question the motive. Like I'm going to show my kid. I can show my kid how tough I am,
Sure,
or which is kind of cool still,
sure.
Sure.
or I'm going to show him that he can do that
Mhm.
in his own ways. Like you can freaking do these hard things, and that's the better one in my mind.
Yeah, I love that.
Right, where it's like you can do this too. Like get out of your comfort zone. Next time you have like a really hard challenge, something that's just like brutal, you can
Yep.
try. You can do it.
Watching my own dad, go from physical 200 pounds, 6'2", just healthy guy, right? Going from that to when I came home from the mission, being able to pick him up off the bed, 140 something pounds, I think he was. And the only thing he could do was blink, and feeding tube sticking out of his belly. He's mentally totally fine. So he's completely captured and imprisoned in his body,
Mhm.
and so watching him go through that and endure it well, not just endure it, but endure it well and die basically with a smile on his face, like that's exactly what you're saying. Like that inspired so deeply in me that it's like, hey, if he can do it, I can do it. Like if he can do something that hard, I can do it. And and sadly, I think there's so many men that just haven't had that mentor before. Like that's the biggest blessing in my life,
Yep.
to have been able to see that and then to then enact whatever it is in my life to say I can endure it. But if you haven't had that, man, it's tough. And we're just here, all four of us, as you can tell, to be here for you. We can't replace that, but at the
Right.
same time, you can find mentorship, you can find inspiration in a lot of good places.
Yeah, it can help you guys latch on to some, really solid principles and things that will help you get that anyway that you might have missed.
Yep. My last thought too, I know we got to go, but my last thought on his accomplishment was that guy just found a new level, like what
Mhm.
Steve's saying, and that's such a cool feeling when you find a new
Mhm.
level of something you've never done before. It changes you,
Level up.
yeah, level up,
That's
and
Forever
so
changing.
cool.
like that guy now knows that, and that experience itself will hold him accountable now for the rest of his life, whether he wants it to or not.
And that is
Yeah.
like one of the disadvantages of, yeah, dude,
Growth,
you
yeah.
you could talk about that forever.
Mhm.
The disadvantages of what?
Of growth, of
Oh,
like
that
doing
yeah,
art,
that's
of
why we
making
avoid it.
progress.
Mhm.
Making progress is kind of scary.
It's
Now you got to
true.
maintain it.
It's true.
It's freaking
Gosh, that's
scary.
real. We need to do another podcast on that for
Yep,
sure.
for sure.
Mhm.
Hmm.
So it's
Well, thanks,
really,
guys.
yeah,
Good conversation.
yeah. Thanks for
Look at
bringing that up,
That's
Steve.
fun.
Good stuff.
Sweet, guys.
Good one. All right. We'll see you in the next one.